Okay, I think we are recording this week's episode of the Midweek Howl. For all of our new listeners, it's the non-paranormal part of the From the Shadows podcast. How about that? That was my best radio voice. Was that any good? I don't know.
How would I know? I'm not in the radio business.
You're more in the radio business than the average guy, I would say, right? I mean,
don't get me on the average person in this country or in this world, for that matter.
Oh, brother. Okay.
We will go down a hole that I might shed some listeners and be labeled bad person.
Okay, we won't go down that way, even though I know there's a couple of our loyal listeners going, yes, let him go down that way. We'll have to save that one for a Patreon.
I just, that's because, and it's just because I'm losing faith in mankind on so many levels.
Well, okay, so
I just went to Walmart an hour ago, so.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
that could be a.
that could be a.
We should have a man on the street. Like the cop body cams, the Axiom body cams that cops wear. Yeah. We should just be wearing. We should have people just wearing those body cams around different segments of the country and putting it together, like kind of like Vice started out, but we could call it. I don't even know what the opposite of Vice is, but and then people would see just, I think it's a national security issue. If the Communist Chinese Party really seeing what dumb son of a bitches live in this country, they'll stay out. If they walk through my Walmart down here, it would take they would take a platoon of the toughest. What do they got in China? Kung Fu?
I don't know. That's a touchy. That's kind of a slippery slope. Whatever form of martial arts.
What was that old? Not Steve McQueen. Help me out. Who's the Texas Ranger? Texas Ranger.
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris. What didn't he have a movie called The Army of One?
Probably.
Or if he did, he did. Right around the good guys wear black. Remember back in the old days?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Army of One is that could be a half a dozen of these buffarillas I seen at Walmart while I go down here. And I'm telling you what, I don't care what the Communist Party threw at these old gals, that they would.
The buffarillas.
They would think, I just read an article how China's one child policy.
They did away with it. They did away with it.
Well, that's because it's the country's shrinking, the population's shrinking.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's like 14 dudes for every woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's two ways to look at this. The negative way to look at it is if they did show up at the Lake Ozark Walmart,
there'd be somebody for those buffarillas.
They would forget all about. Maybe they'd never seen a woman before in its natural setting. In the Walmart down here, they might not be able to process it. Okay?
So are you saying we could win this war by love?
I'm just saying if we could harness the power of the trash in this country, okay, on so many levels, whether that be the methane from the landfills or just the individual people bumping around. This country is like a giant pinball machine with just a couple of bumpers, right? Little flippers. And the rest of the people, the population, just bing, bing, bing. There's so many balls just bouncing off of whatever they hit, just trying not to go down the hole.
That's quite an analogy to start out this episode.
But the positive way to look at it is maybe we could, I got my buddy Ed up there in Nebraska. I'm not going to tell you where in Nebraska because I don't want the people going after it. But he's genetic. He knows all the stuff about genetic cattle and stuff. You know what I mean? Where they do these Angus and he's into this in vitro and they do this. I can't even tell you all the stuff that they do with these $1 million cows, right?
Yep.
So he could probably look at those little bitty Chinese guys and those fat old American women and figure out how to breed the fatness out of the country. He could breed the country into a better spot.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
That's interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, go ahead, flip the script. Let's go. We're off to the races. That's what you get. For turning on the record button at the very beginning.
Early, yes. I need to remember we need that.
You've done jump from communism to Nebraska to breeding fat women in 4 minutes. What are we at? 6 minutes. Time flies. You're having fun.
I was just gonna say, how'd your Father's Day go? Because full disclosure, we're recording this on Father's Day because that's how dedicated you and I are to our fans to bring them a new show every week, or almost every week, that we're taking time out from our Father's Day festivities to record an episode. So you went to Walmart on Father's Day. So there must not have been, your kids must not have had a big plan.
We already had the Father's Day sprint all day. We first of all, every day in my life, without going into too much detail, is celebration. I mean, every day I get up, I look at myself. I can't even believe every day is a holiday, and it seems like every week's a payday. You know what I'm saying? So it's just
no, I don't. Because
well, that's because you. I went to church. Hey, listen to
I'm working towards that.
I'm telling you, I went to church 3 times a week as a kid.
Okay,
and it's really paying off now. That's all I'm going to say. It's really paying off. And anyhow, my kids decided they were gonna. I've been looking. I got a big double toolbox. You know, tool chest combo, a big bottom box and a top box.
Yeah, I know.
So I wanted to get a side box for it, and I had decided I was trying to clean out my garage. I had to do a bunch of work for my kid's car. I shipped my kid's car to Spain. You know, he's in the Navy and he's overseas, and I shipped the car over to him. So it got out of my garage, and I thought, well, I'm going to clean out my garage, and I just started putting my stuff away, and I was running out of tool space. So I decided I'm going to buy Harbor Freight. I'm going to buy this side box of drawers so I can put all the little rinky-dink stuff I got. You know what I mean? Your air tool, little tire gauges in one drawer, and
yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about.
Utility knives and stuff like that, yeah. Right?
That's not me though, but I know what you're talking about because you know I'm not a tool guy.
So anyhow, that's because you drive a new Suburban. I drive stuff that's old enough to vote. So I decided. My wife said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I'm going to go to Jeff City and go to Harbor Freight. I'm going to buy the side box. I'm going to buy myself," because she said, "What do you want for your Father's Day?" I'm going to buy it myself. Okay, perfect. Well, then my kids wanted to take me to my hometown, which is Taos, Missouri, Taos. Got 795 people or whatever. And there's a little bar there called Dave's that they've redone. It's not, I mean, the Dave that I knew growing up, like everything. He's, you know, I thought he was dead from a bad tractor accident. His grandson was here and just said, no, he got crippled, but whatever.
Is that the guy who lost the leg?
No, that's another guy.
That's another guy.
So,
okay.
Anyhow, my kids say they want to take me to Dave's and eat. So I said, okay. So we go drive up to Harbor Freight, and it's a madhouse because everything's 20% off for Father's Day sale. So I guess everybody and their brother, even though I read the coupon and there was a bunch of carve outs, you know what I mean? Typical stuff. Yeah, all the stuff you want, you know what I mean? Because I was like, dude, I'll just buy because I got a 56-inch box. I'll just buy the bullet and buy the 72-inch. I'll buy the whole combo. I'll save $300 or whatever. Nope, that's all. A bunch of that stuff was not listed, but that's a whole other story. I'm rambling on.
It's like getting a coupon for Dick's, but it doesn't cover Under Armour, Nike, or shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing you go to Dick's for.
Yeah, exactly. That is totally it. So anyhow, I jack around in the people, and you got to take the little SKU to the checkout, you know what I mean? And then they look at it, and she tells me, hey, we don't have any. And she said, I got 2 in stock. One of them's a display. I can't sell the display. She's coming up with all these reasons why she ain't got it, even though the computer says she's got it. So then she says, well, I'll tell you what, you can order it and prepay, and you'll have it sometime before the 15th of July. And my wife was like, okay. And I was like, I done changed my mind. What do you mean you need to change your mind? I said, you know what? And what I haven't brokered the news here, I think I'm just going to buy the big box that I should have bought. Building a shed, buying a toolbox like building a shed. You can't get one big enough. You know what I mean? Don't jack around and buy, because I'm on my third toolbox in 25 years. Buy the big one right out of the gate and be done with it. So anyhow,
I'm thinking about building a shed. So what you're saying?
My little brother built one. It's so big that I said, dude, you think that's? I mean, put a 4-foot stub wall around it and then framed it with like 10 footer, so it's 14 foot around. You know what I'm saying when I say concrete stub wall? I mean, built a shed that, you could probably house the Parliament of Ukraine in it right now. And that's what he said. I've never heard anybody complain about building one too big.
You're right.
Anyhow.
I mean, we got one on the farm that is so big we put an airplane hangar door on the front.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not too big. It's not too big.
Well, that's because you're out there making a living. You're keeping this country afloat. Thanks to Farm Aid and the Democrats, them farmers, the sheds just keep getting bigger. But that's a whole nother show. Anyhow, so I went from the Harbor Freight. I took the kids down the road. I drove through my alma mater, Lincoln University, and because the Dave's didn't open until 3. It was just open 3 to 6 on Sundays. So I had a little time to kill and drove them through the country and showed them where I used to wait for the school bus and stuff like that. Of course, my boy, he was trying to give the tour and running his mouth because he's done it so many times he's tired of hearing it.
He's giving the tour.
Yeah.
Now, do they listen? Do they care?
No, half-assed. They will look at their phones, complain about being sick in the back seat. Just halfway. I don't know. Anyhow, I went out to Dave's, and it's not the same Dave's. I told my son walking in, I said, this is where Bo's dad used to change tires, and now they've added on to it, and it's got seating and booths and shit, you know what I mean? And you walk in, it's all uppity, You got some, what? I mean, back when I was... It ain't
the same bar where they used to change tires.
Hey, Dave used, listen, no kidding, Dave used to be changing a tire, okay?
And make it a hamburger?
And follow you in and make you something to eat. Hey, and I complained. Brian Dorge or something said something to him, and he said, "You sissies." Now this is in the '80s, right, ladies? And he goes, "You guys couldn't have made it in my time." He said, "We used to go down to 5 Points, which is an intersection. It's gone now in Jeff City by the Capitol, but the old timers know what I'm talking about." And he said, "You go to Mill Bottom, and there was a club called Night After Night, and we used to call it Fight After Fight because they'd fight so bad." And he said the bathroom was right behind the bathroom was right behind it, right behind the stove. So he said, you would watch the cook. You'd set up, if you set up at the bar, kind of like what you'd call, how they have bar seating at a Waffle House or something now.
Oh yeah.
This guy Tommy or somebody would walk. He said, Tommy'd walk right out of the bathroom. He said if half the time, if the place was packed, he'd be so busy the door wouldn't even close. He'd take a leak and come out there and start cooking. And you'd say, "Okay, Tommy," he'd say, "How you want it done?" And you want a hamburger or a steak or whatever. And they'd say, "How you want it?" And he'd say, "Fry the piss out of it." And so he said, "Axle grease and 1040 ain't nothing compared to what we grew up eating. Not to mention asbestos and everything else." So we were in there. My son, they got a pool table, and my son always wants to play pool with me. These kids always want to play pool with me, and I can't even explain to you what kind of experience that is. Because
you're so much better, and they think you're good.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm not a very good pool player. But, I did it at his birthday party with about 6 of them up here at the bowling alley. I beat these kids down. I had to try to show them how to hold their hand. They don't know how to hold a cue. They don't know. They got these Xbox fingers or whatever that go 180 degrees back. You know what I mean? They're like the opposite of the opposable thumb. They're like the evolution of the primate has evolved to have these crazy dexterity controller or text thumbs, but they can't hold a pool cue.
Yeah. So how are they ever going to get into a bar fight? if they can't hold a pool cue?
I guess they just swing it. I guess. I don't know. So then I've got to sit there, and then I told them, I said, hey, I realize that your frontal lobe isn't developed and you don't have logic, which means that's why boys aren't do very good in math, it's because their brains don't develop fast enough in high school. You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't be taking algebra, geometry, trig, and all this stuff until probably when they're 17 through 21 or something. But that's a whole different discussion. So I'm trying to explain to them angles. Well, I know you guys suck at geometry, but this is angles. You want that ball, that number 11 ball to hit here. You need to hit it right here with the cue ball. You got to hit the cue, but you can't hit it square because they hit everything square, right? They hit the middle of the ball to the middle of the ball, and it bounces around like the aforementioned ping pong game or pinball game. Bong, 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 bing, bing. And, you try to help them out, but...
Well, can they make a fist with those Xbox fingers?
It doesn't matter. You can't fight anymore.
You can. You just got to know where to do it. Come on.
They fight so much, apparently, and I don't know how we're going down this road, but apparently the young men in this country fight with themselves on whether to stay men or not. So I don't know if they can't even decide that. How are they going to go out on the street and decide to throw fists for some of the stupid stuff that people throw fists for being disrespected? I can't even. I can't even fathom the country. The world.
I think you're getting a little. I think you got to get out of the Ozarks. I think it's really affecting you a little bit. You're getting a little surly, a little downtrodden.
Dude, I was just in Jackson Hole, Wyoming last weekend.
I know, but when you were just fresh from Minnesota, you're a lot more optimistic. You saw a lot. You saw a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know. The Ozarks seem to be sapping.
It's because the country's going to hell and ham. It's circling the toilet.
Okay. I don't know. Some places got to be worse than others. That's just the way.
Well, now hold on a second. Now, it's kind of like some people. They always say people hate Congress, but they love their congressman, right? It's not completely bad. I'm just talking on a micro level for me at all. It's the big picture, maybe, if there is such a thing. I'm not even worried about it. You know what I mean? We've had this discussion on.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
You want to survive the end of the world. You know what I mean? It doesn't make. I hate to sound like my dad, but I'm about out of this. I got 25 good years left, and another maybe half a dozen crappy ones. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
going to affect me that bad.
Well, so that takes me to something I wanted to. So Friday night, Christy and I out driving around. She's trying to, she had some flowers.
Find herself? Oh
no, she's not trying to find herself.
A week after getting married.
It's too late. It's too late. But we were driving around out.
Isn't that a Carly Simon song?
It's too late. It's too late. Yeah.
Isn't it? Anyway, go ahead.
I believe it's Carly. Unless you want me to keep saying.
That's just that's just the depths and the quickness of this show. Go ahead.
And maybe James Taylor wrote it. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it was written about him, right? No, that was Youre So Vain.
Youre So Vain, but
you probably thought.
But the theory was it might have been about Mick Jagger or Warren Beatty.
I think it was Warren Beatty, wasn't it? Maybe we could have made it in radio.
She did.
Maybe we could have made it in radio. Anyway, go ahead.
She did tell somebody what that's about, but they had to pay. I forget who it was. Somebody famous at a charity auction. They auctioned off the opportunity to have Carly Simon tell them who Youre So Vain, who the song was about, but they had to promise to keep it a secret. So somebody does actually know who that song is about. And Mick Jagger, the only reason I think Mick Jagger, it could be because he sang backup on that song. If you listen to that song, Mick Jagger is the backup singer.
I did not. How did you know that off the top of your head?
Well, there's a lot of useless information.
Mick Jagger in some ways is the wind beneath my wings, but go ahead.
Anyway, we were driving around and we looking for some flowers or whatever, and they were closed. We decided to stop at this place in Shelby, Ohio. It's a drive-in, like an old-fashioned drive-in. You go in there, and it looks like something out of Happy Days, pretty neat place. I'd never been there before. Christy had gone quite a few times as a kid or whatever. So it's cool. So we got a gift card and we got some piece of pie to take to a guy that lives in Shelby that her family is very close with. He's 95 years old. He's Red is what his nickname is because he had red hair back as a kid or whatever. So we stopped. His son lives in, I think, Columbus. And so he's kind of by himself. His wife died about 5 years ago. And he was telling us they'd have been married 71 years. So they were married 66 years. Of course, he doesn't get a lot of, gets some visitors or whatever, but, it's lonely, it was lonely, 8:00 on a Friday night or whatever. So we sit there and we're talking to him and he's just happy to see us. And he's telling me old stories. And so what I noticed was, and now you are good at this and I'm not because I didn't have anything to brag about. But the guys from that generation all the way up into the 70s always lead their stories off with the year and make and model, of the car that they had at the time. Every story revolves around a car or a truck or something, whatever they were driving at the time.
Now, you think that's because that's a lot of times that's how I mark the years in the story about what I was driving at the time.
Yeah, I wonder. Well, but
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's a snapshot.
Yeah, and he was, and you could. He was a hot rodder. So he raced and he won a lot of races and he had pictures and he was showing us, pictures of some of the cars, and he still had his first trophy from like 1951 or whatever. It was really cool. And the other thing he was real, and, we've kind of talked about this, was he was in World War II. Okay. And so everything, the three things he talked about: cars, the service, and his wife.
Okay. And what else is there? What else is there?
That's right. You're right. You're absolutely right. I was like, that's a generation. I mean, that's like two generations for me. Him, he's even older. He might have been older than a little older than my grandpa, but not much. But, that's how my grandpa, that's the stuff he talked about: his family, the cars he drove, and, where he got them and what color they were and like everything they had, all the options, and, who he raced or who he didn't race or whatever. And it was I just sat there and I'm like, man, when that generation's completely gone, we got our parents' generation and then us. And even I don't talk like that, because I didn't have cool cars like you guys all did. What am I supposed to lead a story off? So back when I was driving my 75 Pacer, I did. That's terrible.
If that's a sad story. That's what you had, right?
Yeah, but it's a sad story, no matter what happens after that. But it's that time is gone. Is going to be gone, and what's going to replace that? Like, I remember I was playing this video game, or
you don't think people? You don't think this younger people are going to have anything to tell?
No, I don't think.
They've got stuff to tell, don't they?
Do they? Everything
I don't know.
Everything gets told on Snapchat or something. Do they really have anything to tell? I don't know.
So does that mean them stories live forever?
Well, wouldn't that be sad?
I see wouldn't that be sad? Like Whistling Diesel and these people, they memorialize their stupid stuff forever because they do put on. You know what I mean? They film it and post it, and right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so that may be kind of a shame that his stories aren't the ones being saved and memorialized forever. Those are the people
won't listen. People won't listen to those stories.
Well, that's a shame.
and it's because the younger people, if you will, okay. I mean, look at the stuff people follow, the Kardashian types or whatever, that is just basically empty calories, right? They tell a story about going to a club and hooking up, or some meaningless bar drinking party type story, right?
Exactly.
And maybe in a story about getting a tattoo of a butterfly, okay? But you transplant the 90-year-old or 92, 3, 4, 5-year-old guy who stopped school at 8th grade, worked in a sawmill till he was 17 in Jasper and Pearl Harbor. He lied about his age. He went and fought in the South Pacific, killed a bunch of Japs, blew up some shit, was in the Indianapolis when he got torpedoed, fought sharks for 3 weeks, got back to Hawaii, and the only thing that kept him from dying of dehydration is he drank 28 gallons of beer a day while he got a different tattoo of a whatever. I mean, he's got some stories to tell, right? And you're just not going to, you can't outstory a storyteller that's really done some stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're right.
So,
those stories don't.
So those people, it's just like, there's some people I follow on Twitter a little bit, and they get into Twitter wars with people that's never done anything, right? So you have some dudes that have done a lot, and they post an opinion about something, and then you immediately get attacked by people that have never done anything. And the sad part is, the people that's never done anything, they actually have some people follow them. I mean, they actually have some people that that carry the water for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, I get it. Well, and it made me think of, like, we are the kind of the last generation that grew up, and I don't want to say without, because we didn't really know we were without, but the people that grew up in the 70s at all as kids, it really is it seems like the 1920s did to me and you, probably growing up in the 70s. We'd hear stuff about people in the 20, in our teens and 20s, and like we had to go to an outhouse, and we took the horse and buggy. Like, I think that's what it sounds like for kids nowadays to hear about stuff about it, like us growing up in the 70s, like a rotary phone and not having cable TV, and no video games, and no central air, no air conditioning. Stuff like that. I think that's similar. I think it's like, it's almost like we're talking science fiction when we talk about it.
But they'll always be good storytellers, not because they're Jerry Clower, but because there'll be a few of them that still, there's still some, I don't want to say use the term fighter as in physical fights as much as metaphorically with the world. As affluent as the world gets, there's still a lot of poor ass people in West Virginia or in northern Arkansas or wherever, and they're going to have the stories to tell. There's another Kid Rock in every trailer park out there, for that generation.
Well, and I think about, because it's Father's Day and I'm out mowing the yard, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to hear from two of my daughters, of course. And I just think,
text you?
Oh God, no. My oldest daughter did, and then when Izzy came home, she, happy Father's Day. But Gabby and Libby, nothing from them. I haven't heard from them in 5-6 years. Why would they, And so
I think, what, if you want to catfish them, I can tell you how we can do it. We'll just pretend you won the lottery, and I bet you they come in there within minutes hearing that. Oh, did you hear about your dad? He won the lottery.
Who knows? But I think about the reasons why they're mad at me and don't talk to me, because I told them no. Well, because I told them no.
Right.
And that's the long and short of it. I told them no. And their mom never told them no and wanted to be their buddy. And I think back to how you and I grew up in the 70s. I can't even count on one hand how many times my dad told me yes. And my parents didn't want to be my friend. Well,
it just depends. Sometimes they'd tell you yes just so you want your ass get handed to you. Right?
Well, they never told me yes because it was something I really wanted. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? And I just think about, Hey, kids are kind of soft. I mean, not just kind of. And it's not, I don't mean physically, but I mean, they're just not mentally tough when it comes to some things, and forget about the corporal punch. I mean, they wouldn't last.
How are we going down this on Father's Day?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Let's switch gears.
I'm about to pick on some tranny people, and now we've run the ditch with spoiled kids.
We're not picking on alternative lifestyles. We're not picking on spoiled kids. But how about that video I sent you of the bear coming in on the surf in Destin, Florida?
Well,
what would you do at the beach if a bear, even if it's a cub, comes rolling in on the top?
I'd go hide behind some of them damn Walmart women. That's what I'd do.
How does that happen though in Florida?
Were you sure it was real?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I read many different articles on it, and the sheriff, they said it happens all the time. They see him swimming, and I'm like, well, how? And I mean, I don't know if you really got to see the video, but I mean, there was like a guy behind that bear shooing him up through the water, and I'm like, I wouldn't even get anywhere near it, no matter how little it was.
Well, maybe that's what we need, because I'm telling you what, I think a bear would kill everything that was ailing you. I mean, to be right, you would forget all about whatever problems.
If you came face to face with a bear,
unbearable. if a real bear was coming at you. I watched one of this gal getting gored by a buffalo in the street at it wasn't Yellowstone, it was somewhere else. It was the Custer National Park in South Dakota. And I'm going to tell you what, that cured about 35 people had everybody that was there.
They had an idea about getting out.
They were all wanting to change where they wanted. They all wanted to be Native American shapeshifters instantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing.
Which I think that, hold on. So you know what this dovetails in with your World War II guy, right?
Yeah.
So the people that have really saw the elephant, so to speak, metaphorically, those people, I think when they came back, they were fairly grounded, even if they were alcoholic abusers, okay? Because they seen the worst it could get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The absolute worst. And if you were gonna, sell your soul to get a little rinky-dink row house in New Jersey or one of these places, that was perfectly fine with you, because you weren't, running up a machine gun next to the flamethrower or something. You know what I mean? So that little 11-inch black and white that you saved up to get, or that one car you had to ride the city bus to work half the time, or maybe you didn't have air conditioning, you had a box fan.
It was way better than
it was still pretty damn good. So right. If we could come up with some kind of way to get a giant land war for a third of the people in the world to go out and be cannon fodder, the survivors will be better people.
There's some merit to that argument, although I would just like to think there'd be a better way to do that.
I think on a smaller level, I wrote a treatment for a thing. It was like did you ever see the movie Holes?
No, I did not.
It's a kid's movie. It's got, oh my God, I don't even know how to tell you the whole story. You've never seen Holes? It's got, I was going to say Billy Bob Thornton, but that's not him. It's got his ex-wife's father-in-law in it.
Bruce Dern?
No, but you're close.
Oh, William.
It's got, my God, it made $71 million.
It's got John Voight.
John Voight. And basically, this kid gets innocent and he gets stuck in like a West Texas reform school. And John Voight's got him out there. There's supposed to be some buried treasure, so his therapy is for all these young adolescent boys to be digging holes all the time. It's kind of stupid. I mean, my kids like it. I mean, it made $71 million at the box office. I don't see what the budget is here, but very similar to that would be Sigourney Weaver. It was a $20 million film. Anyway, I think that would you get some of these better affluent kids that who get in trouble. They could be like a reform school in a trailer park, right? And they get sentenced for 14 days in Cedar City or Osage City, whatever you call it. And they go down there, and somebody like Billy Bob or John Voight makes them take the transmission out of an old Buick in a gravel parking lot with no tools, and they got to sleep with no air conditioning, and haul square hay bales or all this stuff that we had to do, and for their penance to society. You know what I mean? It's like a way to re-education, like a re-education, like an 80s re-education camp.
So we need some people to start digging holes.
Sort of, yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Well, I did get to ask you this last week, I don't think. But what's your take on the aliens landing in Vegas and the cops catching the UFO on their body cam and stuff?
Well, this ain't my take on it. I'm regurgitating. Okay. I listened to Dan Bongino say that he thinks the reason why they're dumping all this UFO stuff now is because we've got the lowest as a country and as a world, we have the lowest opinion, if you will. We don't believe anything the media tells us, and we don't believe anything the government tells us, right? So they're dumping all their UFO files so people just don't take them serious. So then when the shit really happens in a year or so, they're going to say, well, we told you about all this.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of different opinions on it for sure, and that's one of them. One of them's like, oh gosh, the one is, well, it wasn't a year. They thought maybe it'd be 10 years from now when they really told us everything, and they say, well, we've been telling you for 10 years, and nobody cared. Another one is that this is it's a smoke screen. That something else is going on, and they're getting everybody to think about aliens.
But I think there's a possibility of extraterrestrial, but I don't think the U.S. government or any government for that matter has solid proof, because they would not be able to, first of all, contain it, and they wouldn't be able to process it. You know what I mean? The people would be overloaded to the max.
You don't think? I mean, even though the government has come out and said they have off-world vehicles, you don't think they really do?
No, I mean, I do not think they would be able to hide it. You know what I mean? I don't think that they would be able to.
Well, I had a guest on the paranormal part of the show, and he explained how the government was able to hide a lot of the stuff that they have recovered and have been trying to reverse engineer. And he said what happens is like the Kevlar stuff that what's like the bulletproof vest kind of stuff. So that was made from material thought to have been recovered from Roswell, which was a material that when it was a flat metal, but if you crumpled it up, it was very pliable. You could crumple it up and it would go right back to being a flat piece of metal again. Okay. So Battelle in Columbus, Ohio, actually, I believe, is the company that came up with Kevlar. I think this is the connection. And that recovered material from Roswell ended up at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And so what they said, what the government then would do is take this material to these private companies and say, here's this material. We want you to figure out how to make it, figure out what we can use it for, and then we'll go from there. Well, all this disclosure stuff is being made because of the Freedom of Information Act. People are well, once that material gets handed off to Battelle, you can't go ask Battelle for any information in their privately held company. They're not going to give it to you. They're going to tell you to go pound sand. So that's the theory by this guy who's more well-versed in UFOs. I
do like that theory because, the government all the time gets the private sector to do what they're forbidden to do. They do that all the time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you can't find out what's going on because the private sector is not beholden to any Freedom of Information Act. You know what I'm saying? But he said he uncovered paperwork that really showed that was probably the most likely scenario for a lot of the stuff that we have recovered and tried to reverse engineer and turn into stuff. Now, I don't know that they're so sold on the fact that, we got laptop computers and iPhones because of aliens. I don't think that they're saying that, even though a lot of people want to say that, that stuff is comes from that. But no, I just wondered. I just thought it was kind of weird because and in fact that UFO story, I mean, that happened early May, and that only came to light because George Knapp, who is highly involved in the UFO world and coast to coast, he heard about it from somebody and requested the body cam footage. The body cam footage is irrefutable. It shows something falling from the sky and shows this guy, their interaction with those people and the 911 stuff. So I don't know. It's interesting. I just wondered from a law enforcement point of view, like, could you even imagine being called out to the possibility of an alien being in the backyard?
Well, I mean, even when I was on, we didn't mess with aliens because CBP and Customs didn't want to come up here and jack with them. So why would we?
Wrong kind of aliens. Oh my gosh. Well, on that note, I hope everybody had a great Father's Day. I even know this is going to come out a couple days later, but I'm glad that I'm glad you survived. I'm glad you survived Walmart, and on to the next big holiday, right? Whatever that is.
What is it?
4th of July. Well,
yeah, 4th of July. Yeah, and Missouri's under a drought, and I told the kids that I don't know if we're going to be able to have shoot fireworks off. And of course, my son, my 14-year-old, was like, "Well, who cares? Who's going to bother us?" I said, "Well, not too bad unless you light half the county on fire and they come out here and you're, firecracker number one."
That's one thing I don't recall overhearing is forest fires in Missouri.
Well, I apparently used to have them, but now you can't. They just let them burn because they'll get the trailers and the meth labs and everything. It's like cleanup on aisle 14. They just let them burn.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.